And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis. You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis. You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Good morning, Car Clinic affiliates. Your Car Clinic minutes for the week of June 3rd, 2019 are about to head your way. So go ahead and press the record button. As always, thank you for broadcasting and listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Have a great weekend.
Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Advice is everywhere on how to fight fat, fix fashion faux pas, win on Wall Street, and create culinary delights. But do you know how to zap sap? When I come back, I'll tell you.
O'Reilly. When your battery goes dead, everything comes to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts will help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Tree sap deposits aren't part of summer's prettier side. They create ugly stains on your car's finish. Here's a fix. Hold ice cubes over sap lumps for several minutes. Then gently push against them with a plastic spatula to break them off. With a soft cloth dipped in a very hot detergent water mixture, rub the residue vigorously. Hose with cool water. When dry, polish the sap spots, then wax your whole car. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Cotton candy at the fair, collector stamps, and bubble gum. Sticky things that are good, but a stuck accelerator is no joyride. When I come back, I'll tell you how to slow things down.
O'Reilly.
When your battery goes dead, everything comes to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts will help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Life in the fast lane. Yep, when your accelerator sticks, you really feel out of control. To get back in the driver's seat, turn off your engine, shift to neutral, and pull off the road. Be aware, power brakes and steering become manual, so stopping and turning require more muscle. Can you drive your car? Depends on the cause. If it's a wedged floor mat, yes, but more likely it's a broken spring or bind in a throttle linkage, which requires you to slow down and call a tow truck. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with another Car Clinic Minute. It shields you from wind and rain and from stinging bees and low-flying objects. Nope, it's not your mom, but it does protect you when you drive. When I come back, I'll tell you what it is.
O'Reilly.
When your battery goes dead, everything comes to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts will help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Ancient road warriors used shields for protection, and so do you. You're a thoroughly modern windshield. Yes, the first drivers used goggles to fend off weather and bugs. Then these were replaced by plate glass, which protected better but shattered easily. Finally, in the mid-20s, lamination was introduced. In this process, used today, 2 glass layers are sandwiched around a flexible, clear sheet of laminate designed to prevent glass from shattering into the passenger cabin. Thanks to windshields and moms, trips down life's highways are safer. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Ah, the sweet ping of wind chimes on your patio. Uh-oh, you're not on your patio, but in your car? Then there's nothing sweet about that ping. When I come back, we'll face the music.
O'Reilly.
When your battery goes dead, everything comes to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts will help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
The ping of a grandfather clock may sound comforting, but coming from your engine, it's bad news. Pinging is an abnormal form of combustion in your engine cylinders that causes shock waves which produce that metallic sound. Increasing the octane of gas to reduce pinging's like taking cough drops for bronchitis. The symptoms mask, but the underlying problems and potential damage to sensors, emission systems, and even the onboard computer just increases. So heed that little ping before it becomes the gong of expensive repairs. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Has the boss got you down? Career at a stalemate? Office boring? Hey, turn that frown upside down. When I come back, I'll share some gee whizzes that'll make you a hit at the water cooler.
O'Reilly.
When your battery goes dead, everything comes to a stop. Don't take a chance on getting stranded. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and get your battery tested free of charge. If your battery does need replaced, O'Reilly Auto Parts will help you find the exact Superstart battery that fits your car or truck at a guaranteed low price. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Here are some automotive gee whizzes that'll make you go, Did you know Theodore Roosevelt was the first president to drive a car and to own one? Did you know the last Russian Tsar, Nicholas II, had a pair of Rolls Royces? And Lenin, the father of communism, had a Rolls of his own. Did you know Clyde Barrow, the famous gangster, wrote to Henry Ford telling him what a dandy car he made? Wow, this has been fun. Now go show off at the water cooler. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Count down to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
Well, I hope this week was a great week for you folks, and I hope that your car is running well. If you have any car questions, I'm your personal car consultant. We're going to have a really great program today, a great program because I'm going to take your calls. Actually, Jonathan is sitting in for Hannah and doing a great job, and Fabio is at the board. We'll put you on the air. Jonathan will take your calls at 888-227-2546. We already have Ken and Katie and another call coming in. So we have several lines, and now is the best time for you to get in. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you today by O'Reilly Auto Parts, where you'll get better parts, better prices every day. O'Reilly Auto Parts has the parts you need to get the job done right. Stores are stocked with high-quality parts and accessories at guaranteed low prices, and their well-trained professionals are standing by to help. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. 888-227-2546. So, tuners, according to a recent article, in fact, just yesterday, Chevrolet's mid-engine Corvette. This is the most talked about automobile, and I'm not so sure that this article is not some more of the hype, but it seems that the tuners are going to have a big problem because the tuner, when I come back, I'll share the rest of this story with you. It's all about Chevrolet protecting the performance of the new Corvette. I'm Bobby Likis. You're going to love us. If your vehicle's a little sluggish, try Berryman's B12 Chem Tool. Using HEST or high energy solvent technology, Berryman's B12 Chem Tool dissolves gum, varnish, and carbon deposits in the fuel system, which help restore lost power and peak performance. But don't take our word for it. Richard M's 99 Acura had 200,000 miles and was idling roughly. He put a bottle of Berryman B12 Chem Tool and the idle smoothed out and the car ran noticeably better. Learn more about Berryman B12 Chem Tool and other great products at BerrymanProducts.com. Insurance 101, courtesy of Grundy Insurance. Coverage gaps, holes in your vehicle insurance that leave you lacking necessary protection. Grundy's MVP, or Motor Vehicle Program, provides coverage for both collectors and daily drivers on one policy, both with agreed value coverage. Grundy's MVP consolidates your exposures and offers broader coverage with equal policy limits, agreed value, and an added 150% valuation clause. See the Insurance 101 section at Grundy.com. Talking tunes! No, not the ones on your radio. The ones that allow you to reprogram your vehicle's factory computer without even popping the hood. The result is more power, more torque, and a better overall driving experience. We recently sat down with Jim McGinn, Vice President of Marketing for Power Tech. Jim touched on another benefit associated with automotive tuning and efficiency. Let's hear how tuning your vehicle can lead to increased fuel economy.
Superchips tuning essentially increases your vehicle's timing. It allows the truck or the car, the SUV or Jeep to run in a higher gear, and it improves the process which we call atomization, which is essentially it turns bulk liquid into spray, and when you achieve this, you increase fuel pressure and you increase your fuel economy. So as a result, you can run the vehicle in a higher gear with advanced timing, and you get a more complete burn. We've done extensive road and dyno testing to validate these claims, and it really impacts the bottom line for the consumer with the Superchips Flash Pack.
Find your perfect tune at superchips.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow. Now you're here, your aroma helps me wake, and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with today's broadcast. I'm Bobby Likis. I'm your host. I'm your personal car consultant. Don't know all the answers, don't have all the answers, but certainly I can share with you information that I've gleaned and learned through education and through courses in automotive, both with OEMs, that would be Ford Motor Company and Chrysler, Mercedes-Benz as well. And recently, Lexus. Actually, we are the de facto service center for Lexus in our small city of Pensacola, Florida. The dealers, some 60 miles away from here. Those are really great cars. I've said before, when regard, and I have a lot of folks that ask me, well, what's a good used car to buy? You know, for whatever member of the family or for you. And Lexus or Toyota. Toyota makes I think some of the best, if not the best. Well, let me back up. Toyota makes the best used cars you can buy. You can run those cars 200,000 miles, and with normal maintenance, and that's the trick, regular normal maintenance, those cars just run and run and run. A lot of other cars seem to last that long, but they go through phases where you have to replace a lot of parts, and those phases are, and just mark your calendars, 6 years, 5 years, 6 years, 60 to 70,000 miles, and that's when the brakes and rear brakes go out, probably on your second set of tires. Some of the weather stripping is starting to go away. Interior starts to deteriorate. So it's really important for you early on in the 30,000 mile, 2 year, maybe 3 year phase of your new car to really protect it and take care of the body, take care of the paint, have it serviced regularly. And what is that regular service? Well, you call me and we can discuss it. And what we'll do is we'll discuss it with you about your particular automobile. And so that way we won't generalize it. And to that end, let's go to Kentucky. Take a call from Ken, who has an 03 Mercury Grand Marquis. Ken, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you join us this morning.
What's happening, Brother B? How are you doing today?
I'm terrific, really, and actually took a little vacation and just returned this week from Cabo San Lucas in Mexico, and even got a little bit of sun. In fact, Jonathan, when he came in, you got a tan this week. And so
all right.
I did. But he asked me, did you learn how to speak Spanish? And the answer is, all I can say is, hola. That's about it.
I hear you.
Yeah. What can I do for you?
Well, I'm right now sitting inside of my problem. I live in Florence, Kentucky, and I listen to you online. And my 2003 Mercury Grand Marquis GS is going through a problem that it's had before. For some reason, you know how when you get out of your car normally and you take the key out of the ignition,
sure.
And the steering wheel locks in place?
Right.
Well, this time it didn't lock in place when I apparently got out yesterday, and now it won't start. It won't click. It won't do anything, and the steering wheel is not locked. So it's happened to me before, and I can't remember what I did to remedy that. And the second part is I don't know if it's an electrical problem that's tied, because a couple of weeks ago my remote didn't work. I replaced the battery in it and it still didn't work, but then a little later in the day it worked in the car. So I don't know if they're interconnected or what.
Well, let me ask a question, Ken. I don't know if you've tested this. To your knowledge, do the headlights work? Does the horn blow? I mean, is the battery first? Everything starts, no pun intended, at the battery. So, have you had any history with battery problems? Again, the headlights work and the warning lights. When you put the ignition switch key on and turn it to on without starting it, do all of the warning lights come up as normal on the dash cluster?
Everything works, lights, radio. I had a guy come by from a local auto club this morning, come by and jump the car, but it didn't help. So he said he didn't think it was my starter necessarily, or my alternator, or or the battery.
Well, of course, when you turn the key to the crank mode, and you're saying that when you go to the crank mode, nothing happens. The starter doesn't work or anything, and the steering wheel doesn't lock. It sounds to me as though you have a physical problem within the steering wheel itself, because, of course, the mechanical lock. First, there's two different functions. When you put the key in the ignition switch, that is a mechanical cylinder, like a rack and pinion power steering. It's like a rack and pinion. When you turn the key, it pushes a rod down the steering column that plugs into an electrical ignition switch. So really what you're working is a mechanical little miniature rack and pinion that pushes an electrical switch. And when you turn to the left and pull the key out, of course, it also engages a locking pin that locks the steering wheel. So it sounds to me, because you have starting issues, and see, here's the connection. Here's the common. Always look for a common denominator. The common denominator here is your ignition switch. Your starter doesn't work, which would lead me to believe it could be the starter or the ignition switch. But what's common with the starter and the ignition switch? The fact that you're having a problem with the steering wheel lock. So what's common to all of those three factors? The ignition cylinder. So I believe you have an ignition cylinder, and ironically, you had another issue with the remote door lock, which also is part of that whole circuitry. So, and it could be that you've got a body control module. Here's what I would do if I were you. You got nothing to lose. Disconnect. Are you going to do this yourself today? You want to try something?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Disconnect the negative side of the battery. That's the first thing to do. You can't hurt anything there, but never the positive side. Always disconnect first the negative side of the battery. Count to 10 or 15 or 30. Wait 30 seconds. Connect that negative side of the battery back up. And also on Ford products, the negative cable that runs from the battery to the engine block will bolt onto the right passenger side cylinder head of that engine. Sometimes that ground that's perfectly tight corrodes between the battery cable and the block surface. I've actually had this problem, and it causes a voltage drop. So what I would suggest for you to do is disconnect. Here's your marching orders. Disconnect the negative side of the battery cable. Follow that cable to the engine block, and you'll find there's like a 5/8 bolt that holds it onto the cylinder head. Take the cable off of the block and take sandpaper or something and scrape it. Take a pocket knife if you don't have anything else, and make shiny metal and bolt the cable back onto the block very carefully and very securely. Then attach the cable back to the battery. Now you've cleaned and secured the negative side of the battery. Then go try it again. If that doesn't fix it, you've not wasted any time, but at least you've eliminated one potential problem. And if it fixes it, I'll be your hero. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah.
Okay, my friend, try that and let me know either later on in the program. We've got 2 hours to go here, and or next week at your convenience. Thank you so much, Ken. Love to hear from you.
And thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for listening.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. I hope he goes and fixes his car and calls us back. Let's take a call from Katie. Katie is from Florida. Oh, cool. Katie, good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Good morning. I hope you can help.
I'll do my best. What can I do for you? You've got a 13 Ford C-Max and it won't
Energy.
start. Say it again.
Ford C-Max Energy.
Energy. Okay. And what's the issue?
Okay. Over the lifetime of the car, we have had either 5 or 6 different instances of the car not starting every time it was taken to the dealership. Up until the last time, that they could find no apparent reason for it not starting. We have, I think, 2 or 3 times we actually had the car towed in, and a couple of times we had it jump-started. The last time that we took it into the dealer, we were told that it needed a module that may fix it. The key word there is may or might.
I got you. I heard you.
And so, and of course they wanted us to pay full price for this, and I have a problem with paying for something that might be a fix. It would be different if it was a fix, but they don't seem very sure about it. But in any case, Ford has ordered that module. They said that what they think is that there's this one module that is not allowing some of the items on the car to shut down when we turn it off, which then, of course, drains the battery. And it does have a new battery in it. I think the second to the last time it was in there, they put a new battery in. So it should not be a faulty battery.
Well, I have a couple of ideas. We have a hard break coming up, so you stay right there. And, folks, you stay right there. When I come back, we're going to talk about Katie's starting issue. Don't go away. Insurance 101, courtesy of Grundy Insurance. Grundy's agreed value insurance does not deduct for vehicle age or expected wear and tear when evaluating a loss. They know there's a greater likelihood that your collector vehicle's value will increase over time. Grundy also understands the cost to repair or replace your collector car can change. Their collector car policies feature a built-in inflation guard, which in recent years has automatically increased the insured value of one's vehicle by 4%. Learn more at the Insurance 101 section at Grundy.com.
Did you know that birthday parties help build confidence in kids?
Yeah. Did you know that giving kids less sugar before bedtime helps them sleep better?
Oh, totally. Did you know that friendly kids have more friends?
Everybody knows that.
Hey, guys, did you know that most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
I didn't know that.
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right car seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat to make sure your child is protected. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
This car repair spotlight brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. This week, a 98 Jaguar came into the shop with 200,000 miles and grinding noises in the rear. A road test determined both rear axle bearings worn out. Tommy, our ASE-certified technician, disassembled both sides and pressed the old bearings off the carriers. Time for new parts. We reached out to our local O'Reilly Auto Parts professional and ordered new bearings and seals. These parts had to be an exact match for this vehicle, or we risk having to do the job over. Our O'Reilly Auto Parts professional informed us that all old and new bearings had matching numbers etched on the races, regardless of where they were manufactured. So we knew the new parts would be correct. What a relief. Repair complete, vehicle quiet, and everyone happy. Another great reason why our first call for parts is O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
Higher, 98.
Higher.
Higher, 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100.
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic, brought to you in part by the Car Care Council. Summer's around the corner, if not already here. Just make sure your family's memories aren't made sitting on the side of the road. Follow the 3 P's of car care: prepare, prevent, and plan. You can learn more at carcare.org. We're talking with Katie here in Florida. And Katie, during the break, I hear what you said about the dealer saying this may fix the problem, may being, the key word. And unfortunately, and I wish I had some real words of wisdom and a silver bullet for you, but I do not. Here's what I can do for you, and here's what I do recommend.
Okay, I'm listening.
I think I know you're listening, and I want to do this to the best of my ability. The key word here is may. So if they put this unit in and they've already had the disclaimer that it may or may not, as they said, repair the problem, that's one more step that they'll have to take. So that means that what's next? What box is next? So what I would like to see happen first, and I agree with that. I agree because we've done the very same thing when we had phantom ghost problems. In other words, problems that weren't there, and there's nothing that you can do to make the car not start. It just has a mind of its own. And whenever that happens, it's called erratic electronic problems, and we have a lot of those in the industry because of the sheer nature of the vehicles. But Miss Katie, what I recommend is I'd like to know. I'd like maybe for you to spend some time with a technician, and quiz the technician. Now you're going to say, well, I don't know what questions to ask. Exactly right, so I'm going to give you some questions to ask, and I want you to write this down. Number one, you want to know if there are any codes stored in the computer, in the car, codes, trouble codes. And it doesn't mean just because the check engine light is not on, and by the way, the check engine light is the only source of acknowledgement or recognition that the driver has that there are some trouble codes in the computer. But just because the light is off doesn't mean there's not a bunch of codes in there. Every time I check my car, and it's a luxury car with, 30 modules on it, there's a half a dozen, if not a dozen, codes where it says the rear seat massage lost communication, the driver's mirror lost communication, because from time to time glitches happen. Just like in your home, you'll see the lights dim, and sometimes the power company has glitches in the power. Well, every time, and that happens quite often, we don't think anything about it. But in a car, whenever something like that happens, the computer says, record that, record that, record that. Well, if the computer were to turn on the check engine light every time a glitch happened, everybody that drove every car would have the check engine light on continually, because that's a problem. Now, so what happens is the computer in your vehicle, as it is for all vehicles today, has to see a glitch numerous times and for a certain length of time before it will say, this glitch is we've got 30 kids in this class, and one of them keeps making noise. I've already warned you, Bobby, several times, but now you're continuing to make a nuisance of yourself. It's time out for you. So whenever you see where I'm going here, whenever a problem exists, it has to reach a timeout level before the computer says, check engine light on. But the good news is, before that ever happens, it's recorded. It being those timeout warnings are recorded in the computer. So what you want to ask the technician, and I want you to do this personally, help me to just say, help me to understand, number one, what's going on with my car. Also, are there any codes? Have you recorded the codes? Because every time you take your car in, there are codes in the vehicle. And every time you pick your car up, they've cleared those codes, but they should have recorded those codes before they clear them, because that's it's like a medical record. Just because you got the flu and 6 months ago, there are some test results and blood work and what have you. Well, you don't throw those things away. You keep those as part of your medical record. We, for our regular customers, don't throw those things away. We record them because after the fact, if we repair a car and then 2 weeks goes by and the car comes back with a check engine light, the first thing we're going to do is recheck what we just recently repaired to see that we don't have a similar problem, or we don't have a same problem with a same part. You understand where I'm going here?
I do. Mm-hmm.
So it's to your benefit to be informed by the technician who's working on your car. You don't need to speak with a service manager or the service desk. You want to talk with the service technician who's working on your car and say, and then he's going to ask you probably, well, now, Miss Katie, when it doesn't crank, what do you do to make it crank? And there is a key question. I mean, you jump start the car and it always starts, well, then you got a voltage problem. And you see where I'm going. So it is this line of open communication that you want with the doctor who's working on your car, because you are going to have to trust his or her judgment, because you may have to replace a module that may not fix that problem. But you want to make sure that before you may replace that problem, that it's not just throwing parts at the issue. And so and quite candidly, there are many times in my profession that I've taken responsibility, and I told the customer, if this were my car, this is what I would do. And I'm going to tell you up front, it may not fix the car, but if this were my car, I would buy this box. And here's an advantage that if you're dealing with a dealer, here's an advantage that a dealer has over an independent. And it's hard for me to say that because I'm a 48-year veteran independent. A dealer a dealer technician can walk over, and this usually doesn't happen, but it has happened. A dealer technician can walk over to the parts manager and say, hey, Ralph, I need a X box for the vehicle, and I'm not sure it's bad, and he can plug it in and see if that corrects the problem. Whereas we can't do that because we have to buy that box. And once we buy that box, we can't take it back. So that's an advantage that a dealer has. And a lot of times, because you're working on the same car, I mean, how many Fords does a Ford technician work on? Like every day. And in the process of replacing the box that may fix it or not, the technician accumulates his or her own stash of used boxes. And a lot of times, and we do the same thing, a box that we replaced that may or may not have repaired the problem, but ultimately, at the end of the day, we fix the problem. And there are times when it's really difficult to know exactly which part fixed that car, because with electronics, you do chase a lot of things. They're all work in unison. They all meaning the door locks and the headlights and the backup lights and the brake warning and the transmission shifting, and everything is all interconnected. They're all connected. So there are parts of a car that throw their hands up and say, and I'll give an example, and then we'll move on to another call. Lexus is really quick. The Lexus cars are quick to put on the stability track and said the stability track doesn't work, but it's not that, it's after the check engine light, because the stability control of a car uses the engine controls to control the throttle. So if there's something's wrong with the engine, it could even be an oxygen sensor and the check engine light comes on. Well, the stability doesn't know it's the check engine. It only sees if there's a problem. So it says, hey, wait a minute, we work in partnership and you've got a warning light, you're not doing your job, so I can't be held responsible, and I want to hold my hand up and say, hey, I'm out of here. And so many times we will repair the check engine light in a Lexus and then clear the code for the stability, and there's nothing wrong with the stability module. But the module is so smart and programmed to say, whenever you got a check engine light, I can't be held responsible for applying the brakes or the yaw control or the yada yada. So So that's there's, as you can tell, there's a lot to it, but the conversation you have to have is a similar conversation that we're having, and you have to have that with the technician, the person who's working on your car. Any questions?
Well, and the biggest problem recently has actually been that the dealership can't seem to get that part. It's supposed to be a factory direct ship, and they've had to reorder twice, and they still have not been provided with that module.
Well, have they tried to reprogram that module, or do you know?
I do not know.
Okay, that's a question. Write that in your little dictionary there, your little notepad, that you ask if they've reflashed and if there are any updates to the software for your automobile. That's an instant gotta do first. Before you start condemning anything, just like a computer, you buy a new computer, what's the first thing you do? You go online and you update it. So that's becoming, and not becoming, it is a first thing that all people do, is to look for updates, because updates many times will correct a problem with an issue, because a car is not new any longer, and that issue has now become, whatever wasn't an issue when all the wires were new and the engine had no miles on it, has become an issue only because the new car, the controls were too tight. They were too, and Lexus actually has a computer, and we did this recently, that opens the threshold. So that I told you that how many times that Bobby was made noise and he wouldn't shut up, and finally put him in timeout. Well, Lexus has expanded the threshold of timeout. So because and this is on older cars, because there's nothing wrong with the car, it still operates, but it doesn't operate within that little window that was new. It's like a new house. It's great, but when you get old, you got to put roofs and seals and door, all those things. Hey, I got to go. You've got some information. Have a conversation, and then you call me. Feel free to call me back next week after you've had this conversation with your dealer and with your technician, and give me the next steps, and we'll go from there. Okay?
Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. Good luck.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And folks, I thank you, Katie. I really, try to make my answers as short as possible. But in this case, she needs the information. And so for everyone that's in the queue, I'm going to come back to you, and we're going to go forward. In fact, Mike has a comment on Katie's problem. We'll hear what he has to say when we come back. We recently sat down with Kate Searlick, Global Product Management Lead with Johnson Controls. Kate talked about the advantages of AGM batteries, noting they outperform traditional flooded batteries when partially charged, a key benefit if your normal driving consists of shorter trips. Let's hear from Kate.
Today's charging systems are not negatively affected by installing an AGM battery, and no modifications are needed for the alternator or the charging system. In fact, an AGM battery actually performs better when partially charged than a standard flooded battery. This means if you're not driving long enough distances to fully charge the battery, an AGM battery more efficiently performs and not consume additional power from the alternator. We were able to validate this in fleet testing we conducted in Las Vegas, where we witnessed AGM batteries providing up to twice the service life of a standard flooded battery.
AGM batteries help meet the electrical demands put on today's vehicles, and Johnson Controls is the world's largest producer of automotive AGM batteries. Learn more at autobatteries.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic, brought to you in part by K-Seal, a one-step pour-in solution designed to stop coolant leaks and help prevent future leaks. And there's the key word. You can find K-Seal at fine parts stores nationwide like Advance Auto Parts. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it. And if you have an automobile, folks, that is so old that it's not worthy of a new engine with a head gasket problem, we've saved a lot of people a lot of money by using K-Seal to get those cars sealed and continue to drive down the road even with cracked blocks and heads and water pumps. It really works. And it's also, as I said, a one-step pour-in solution. K-Seal. Go to kseal.com for more. Okay, we're going to take a quick call from Mike, and then we're going to go to Tony in Florida. But Mike's in Washington. And Mike, you have a comment on Katie's starting issues. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Thank you, Bobby. I do. This is something that I actually have heard about before. I work at a shop that does car audio, and we had a customer that had kind of a similar random not starting issue, and so they kept rescheduling their appointment with us because their car wasn't reliable. They ultimately ended up just trading it off. But, you know, I did just a quick Google search, and I see tons of people with similar issues, and one person who actually got his fixed, and his ended up being the APIM module. But he had kind of a similar story, back to the dealer, back to the dealer, back to the dealer. They could never figure it out. And so they tried putting that module in it, and that fixed it for him, you know, for that gentleman.
And what's the acronym APMI stand for?
APIM, and you know what? I'm not sure. I didn't research it beyond that. I just thought I'd share it with you.
You know, Mike, I really appreciate you calling from Washington, and APIM module. So, and all cars have modules, and what is so interesting to me, perplexing at times, as you know, but you're in the audio business, and I can tell you that's a business that can be threatening to the electronic architecture of and you know that because you know how cars are made. I had just as a quick point an opportunity to interview and meet at SEMA, at the Consumer Electronics Show, rather, CES, one year. The gentleman that came from BMW, an engineer, and went to work for the MOST Corporation. And MOST is the Media-Oriented Systems Transfer, and that's a system that uses one fiber optic ring that allows folks like you to unplug or cut the fiber and plug it into a MOST compatible unit, so you could put a laptop in the back. You could mount a module anywhere in a vehicle because you had one ring. And of course, as you know, that's a lot of the technology these days. And the challenge with that is that if you don't have a pass through, and the module that's there has a problem, then other modules that aren't even relevant to that operation are affected because there's no such thing as there is a such thing as a pass-through. And you know what I'm saying here. So I admire you for being able to take a vehicle apart and update, upgrade, and modify the sound system. Because if you'll remember, Mike, years ago, GM, and this was the legal way to replace the head unit, which is the radio, folks, in a dash, with a GM car, because the sound audio drivers for the alarm system were in the radio. The instruction was, and Mike, you know, I don't know how it is today. The instruction was, according to GM, you wire the new head unit, but you must run the wires through the old radio somewhere in the car, because it is used for the security system, and I know that's true for a lot of cars these days.
You bet. And that was late 90s, early 2000s, but thankfully there's manufacturers that have come out with all of these different computer modules that let us integrate with these factory CAN bus networks and most networks, and no cutting required, no damage to the vehicle required,
exactly,
and no relocating factory radios in 99% of the cases.
Wow.
So it helps us to be better professionals and give a more satisfying result to the customer.
Well, before I let you go, what is the name of your business and where is it located?
So Performance Auto Sound. So we're in Eastern Washington. We have 5 locations, and I've worked at all 5 of them over the years. But we've been around for over 35 years doing this and love it.
Wow. Well, you certainly paid your dues and earned your keep. Hey, thank you so much for your comments on Katie's car, and I do appreciate that so much. And stay tuned, and love to hear from you from time to time on some projects perhaps that you've taken on and might be of interest to folks across the nation. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thanks, Bobby.
And now we're going to go to Tony. Tony, thank you so much for holding. You were in early. We've got just a ton of calls today. You've got an 05 Duramax pickup. Let's talk about your issue.
Well, I just backed out of the garage, started it up, put it in reverse, backed out normally into the street, put it into drive, and I went about 200 feet, and it felt like it jumped out of gear into neutral, and I got a little notice on my information thing there that said, shift range inhibited. If you want, I can give you some real quick background of what's happened with the vehicle recently.
Sure. Absolutely. You waited your turn, so you feel free. I'll turn the mic to you.
Oh, I don't mind being on hold with you guys. I learn stuff when I'm on hold.
Well,
anyway,
go ahead.
You know the old saying, I'd rather be lucky than good any day?
Yeah.
Well, I figure I'm lucky today because I broke down at 10 o'clock on a Saturday when I can get you on the phone.
There you go. We'll see.
So, anyway, on Tuesday, I had the truck serviced in Madison in Georgia. I had the transmission serviced. They changed the fluid in both filters. I had the rear differential oil changed, and I had the engine oil and filter changed. So that was what was done on Tuesday. I drove the truck from Georgia to Florida with no problem a couple days ago. And the week before that, I called you recently about my tuner. I have a Predator, I forget the name of it. It's a Predator tuner, and I had it in the performance mode since I put the tuner in several months ago. And I recently went up to Greensboro, North Carolina, and picked up a trailer, a dual-axle, 14-foot-long enclosed cargo trailer.
Okay.
It was empty, so it wasn't real heavy. I reprogrammed the tuner at that time from the performance mode to the light tow mode. And I drove from Greensboro back to just outside Atlanta. No problem. And then I left it in the tow mode after I unhooked the trailer. I've just been driving around in the tow mode. And then I took it in Tuesday to have the transmission service and the engine oil changed. So that's what's happened with the truck in the last couple of weeks service-wise. And then this morning I had this problem. I have 240,000 miles on this truck, and I have had absolutely no problem with it other than a water pump changed and minor things like that, but no drivetrain, no engine problem.
The first thing that came to my mind, and because we could talk all day long as to what it could be, but the first thing would be a speed sensor, and if a speed sensor was out of range, then, in other words, there are like 4 or 5 measurements that have to be an inputs to the computer, the transmission shift computer. Number one, the road speed, the road speed of the vehicle, the transmission gear, the throttle position and RPM, and the load. And what that means is that if you're going up a hill and you're stepping on the accelerator and you're going 15 miles an hour and you're pulling a load, the computer has to know all this, or else it would go ahead and shift into 3rd, 4th gear, and then the engine wouldn't have the power to pull. So, that's the difference between like going 6 miles an hour and house hunting and the transmission shifts early because you're not loading it, or pulling onto a ramp on the interstate and accelerating, and first gear it doesn't shift at 6 miles an hour, it shifts out of first gear at 20 miles an hour. How does the car know to do that? It uses the inputs. So the first thing that came to my mind when you said that you backed it out of the driveway and took off and now it doesn't shift, tells me that the input going to the transmission control module, this is if there's no internal problems in the transmission. So if the input is not correct, the computer is going to say, time out here, that we can't shift because I don't get the input. So the first thing that I would do, of course, you probably have already done this, I'd shut it off, reboot it. And
okay,
yeah.
When you say reboot, you mean disconnect the battery cable?
No, just to turn it off. It'll reboot the computer when it does that. It just let it reboot,
okay.
Because quite often when every time you turn a vehicle off these days and turn it back on, you reboot the computer, and a lot of times, a lot of times, folks will have shortage or overcharging or some grounding issue, and the computer will say, oh, there's a fire in the house here, or there's a voltage drop. I'll disconnect. In fact, body control modules are really quick to do that. If a body control module sees a short, if a body control module sees the voltage go from 12 to 8, which voltage doesn't do that, it goes from 12 to 11.9 to 11.8 to 11.7 to 11. That's the way it goes. But if it sees it go from 12 to 8, it knows, wait a minute, we've reached a ditch here. We're not going down a hill, a slope of voltage drop. We've reached a ditch, and that tells me that we've got a shortage problem, because that's the only way you can go from 12 to 8 is to have a grounding issue and something that could burn me out. So I'm going to disconnect, and that's what body control I've actually had that happen on my car, and so it was a bad battery that caused it. So for you, I'm going to say the easiest and first thing to do is just to reboot it. And quite candidly, I like your idea as well, because you've got nothing to lose. Disconnect the ground, and then let the system kind of relax, and then go again. And then ultimately, you're going to have to take it to a service shop. They'll use a professional scanner and check the inputs going to the transmission. And if it's not electronics, then it's internal in the transmission. Got it?
Okay. Now, when you say disconnect the battery, I have 2 batteries.
Yeah, 2 batteries. Yeah. Well, just disconnect the ground.
Disconnect one of them.
Yeah, the ground.
Yeah, the ground on one of them.
Yeah. They're all.
One.
Yeah, either one. Let's see. Wait a minute now. Well, you've got the same ground on one, and you got the positive that connects the 2 together. So I stand corrected. I'm not sure that disconnecting the ground on one would remove all of the voltage. So what I'd recommend you do at the battery, just to be safe, disconnect the negative terminal on both batteries, and then you know that the batteries are not connected to the car. You got me?
Right.
Okay. All right. Do
Yep,
that. Try that. Yeah.
Now,
let me know.
One other thing real quick.
Okay.
When it first did this, I didn't go 200 feet, and it jumped out of gear, and I got that notice.
Right.
I shifted it to neutral. It was in drive.
Right.
I shifted it to neutral.
Yep.
And then I shifted it back into drive, and it started off and did the same thing.
Yes.
And then I said, well, I'm not going anywhere, so I backed up to pull back in the driveway. I shifted into reverse.
Right.
and it backed up in reverse.
Right.
But did the same thing. I went to neutral and back to reverse, and it engaged in gear, and I backed up far enough to get to the driveway.
Right.
And I put it in drive. My driveway is uphill. It's kind of steep. I put it in drive and started up the hill of my driveway, and it jumped out of gear again, and I shifted from drive all the way down to first and pulled on up into the driveway. So I don't know if that means anything to you, but you know, it would go out of gear and back into gear, and then it would jump out once I started to drive.
Well, I think the first thing to do is to try the battery grounds, but also the fluid level in the transmission definitely needs to be checked.
Yep, he serviced that just now, but I didn't check it after he did it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I will check that and
Okay, my friend.
connect the batteries and hope for the best.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Thanks. It's always good to hear from you.
Thank you, Bobby.
Okay, let's go to John, who is our next caller. And I know that Joe and Frank are in the queue. We're running short on time. John, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Hey, how you doing, Bobby?
Fabulous. Thank you. Thanks for asking. What can I do for you?
I have a 203 Ford F-150. I've replaced the injectors, the spark plugs, and the O2 sensor.
What's it doing? You don't like? What's the issue? Not what you've done, but what's the vehicle doing that you don't like?
I'm still getting the code being rich on number 2 bank.
Okay. Here's the words of wisdom. You're going to have to wait until the next hour because we're out of time. I apologize. So you can hang or you can call back. I thank you so much. Folks, that's all the time that we have for today. I want to say that it means a lot to me when you call, and I want to share with you that I appreciate your confidence in me. Don't have all the answers, but together we can really work through a lot of issues for your car. I also want to share with you some really great news. The Ford Service Network, the Professional Service Network, and Ford Motor Company has joined Bobby Likis Car Clinic. And in the next hour, I'm going to share a little more information about that with you. And we're going to take John and Joe and Frank's call and yours at 888 Car Clinic. I'm Bobby Likis. Likis, you'll love it.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Today's Repair Spotlight is for gasoline-powered engines with 60,000 plus miles. At this age and high mileage, vehicles can develop irritating small oil leaks that can make a mess and ultimately cause serious damage to engine and chassis components. The solution? Berryman's B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator. It's simple to use and safe for engine components like catalytic converters and oxygen sensors. Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator cleans and protects the crankcase and engine oil system on all gas-powered vehicles and conditions and revitalizes seals and gaskets to help stop oil leaks. Berryman B60 High Mileage Oil System Rejuvenator contains zinc-based ZDDP and molybdenum moly to help fight friction, heat, and wear. It helps prevent sludge formation to maximize engine performance and life. Don't put up with those pesky oil leaks. Add some Berryman B60 to your motor oil and add another level of protection for your engine. Learn more about Berryman B60 and other great products at berrymanproducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemulls. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's Vehicle Protection Program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Count down to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And a special welcome to this edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Folks, I'm really happy that you tuned in. And just remember, every Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern Time, you can catch us on your local AM and or FM radio station, or you can go to watchbobbylive.com and you can see us because we have the YouTube channel with our association with Google at watchbobbylive.com. Just go to just Google or go to watchbobbylive.com. I'm really excited also about a new partnership with Ford Motor Company. Ford Motor Company has joined Bobby Likis Car Clinic, and the Ford Professional Service Network is a business loyalty program that's offered to independent automotive repair and service locations that, of course, purchase and install Ford, Motorcraft, and Omnicraft parts. And the Professional Service Network, folks, provides unique benefits for our company that we can pass on to our customers, including special technical training, resource library access, personalized reporting via the interactive dashboard, and promotional merchandise and product rebates and growth incentives. The list goes on and on and on. So if you're an independent service shop like I, for some 48 years, check it out. Go to FordPSN.com. Your calls when I come back at 888-227-2546. Let's get the show on the road. Time for another edition of Cooling System Q&A, brought to you by Motorrad, your first choice for vehicle thermostats and caps. Why is the thermostat so important? Cooling system regulates engine temperature and helps prevent overheating. While it's comprised of several components, the thermostat plays a critical role with efficient cooling system operation. It must regulate coolant flow properly to maintain a specific engine operating temperature, in addition to providing quick warm-up. Motorrad's new stainless steel thermal element UltraStat is unmatched for corrosion resistance. Its revolutionary Reax wax mixture provides quicker reaction time. The UltraStat also features bilinear valve technology, which prevents thermal shock to cooling system components, gradually increasing coolant flow versus instant maximum flow found in traditional thermostats. The UltraStat precisely controls engine temperature to ensure the lowest emission standards, maximum fuel efficiency, and terrific interior cabin comfort. The Motorrad UltraStat line is the perfect thermostat upgrade option with coverage for over 160 million vehicles on the road today. Motorrad, leading the way in coverage and service. We recently had an 09 Honda Pilot come into the shop with 169,000 miles on the odometer. The vehicle owner said the cabin was starting to smell like coolant, and he was concerned. Upon closer inspection, we found a heater core leak. Choices were to keep the vehicle and make a repair, which at best is half a day's labor plus parts, or sell the vehicle and buy a different used car that could have its own set of problems. We presented a third option, K-Seal. You've heard me talk about K-Seal before. Well, I don't just talk about it, we actually use the product in our service shop. It's a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Other sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. Our customer went with K-Seal, and 1 month later, no more leak. Learn more about K-Seal at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at lendingtree.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with this hour. We'll go to John, who has been on hold for a long time. John, thank you so much for your patience. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yes, Bobby, as I said before, I got a 2003 Ford F-150 that I changed out the fuel injector, spark plugs, O2 sensors, and I still get a check fuel thing on rich fuel on bank 2, and I clear the code, and I can drive about, I say 5 miles, and it comes back up again.
And it's always bank 2?
Yes, it is.
Well, let's talk about what's common to bank 2. Of course, the injectors on that side. You could have something so sophisticated as an injector driver within the PCM, and we've had our certain issues with your era of Fords, from 2000 to 2009 and 10, where the PCM was an issue. I remember specifically one certain vehicle that we spent some money on and time on, and I talked with the gentleman that owned it, and Johnny Bars, who is our master ASC certified technician, our shop foreman. With the three of us put our heads together before we ever got into this vehicle, because it had a lot of miles on it. It had a couple of 100,000 miles, and this gentleman had this ongoing problem, and so and he'd already replaced some parts. So that's a red flag when, it's like going to the third doctor, and the third doctor says, well, where's the medical history and what's been done to your body to get you to me? Because if two doctors couldn't fix you, now you come to me, and so that's a red flag. So for us, that's what it was. And that vehicle, we did find and replace some injectors. But also at the end of the day, and John, the reason that I bring this up, and that's the advantage that I have over any other Car Talk host, because we're in the trenches 50 or 60 hours a week for some 48 years. So in the bottom line, this car had a PCM problem. It was a driver in the PCM, in the powertrain control module, or ECM, electronic control, in the engine management module. So when we say computer, that's the main one that runs and tunes the engine. So it was a driver in the PCM that was the problem. But yet, if you didn't have the experience, you'd say, well, this is an injector problem, or it's an O2 sensor. I can't tell you how many oxygen sensors have been replaced because the code is a oxygen sensor bank 1, too lean, too rich, or what have you. Oh, it's oxygen. It's not the oxygen sensor. Something's causing that problem. So with your situation, you're going to have to. Do you have a connection to a master ASE certified technician that you've been working with, or just a yourself project?
I'm doing it myself.
Okay, it's time to seek professional help. There may be something that you're overlooking, and so the least that you can do is agree with a local service provider and make sure that you deal with someone who's professional and has the training and is ASE certified. That's a prerequisite for all of our technicians, and for those technicians that we hire who are not ASE certified, we offer that and we demand it. Actually, it's part of the job, and we pay for those tests, and what that does for us is we get better service, and you learn because cars are sophisticated. So that's what I'm going to advise you to do: is stop, don't replace any more parts, take it in, There could be it could be a wire issue. It could be a grounding issue. It could be a pressure regulator, although I doubt it because the pressure regulator would affect all of the injectors, not just the one side. So that's what I'd advise you to do.
So in other words, it's either could be a wiring or one of the computers could not be working.
Or the computer,
Okay.
right. Yeah, but anyway, and let me give you a website to help you. Go to asashop.org, and asashop.org is the non-for-profit organization. I'm a member of the Automotive Service Association, have been for years, and I promote that organization, and rightfully so, and proud and privileged to do so. And then you can put in your zip code, and you'll find a half a dozen shops within your area that's convenient. And then what I would do is I would call a couple of those shops and see see how they treat you, see how interested they are to help you solve your problem. Be careful, and let me forewarn you, be careful about saying, I've replaced ABC, X, Y, and Z. I still got the problem. What do you charge me to fix it? Do not approach them in that manner, because if it's
I'll tell you, Bobby.
Yep.
I'm right here in Pensacola, so I'll probably come see you.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Then when you call and you talk to my crew, do not tell them. Ultimately, you give them as much information as you possibly can. But when you call, you tell them up front, this is what I've done. I've spoken with Bobby. Yeah. And then we will agree to a initial one-time charge to determine whether or not we're going to work on your car and whether or not we think we can fix your car. And if we don't see the fit there, we won't accept the car. So your worst enemy could be you, John. You don't just start throwing parts on cars. I mean, hey, you got the same problem. You spent a ton of money, right? Okay.
That's right. I hear it.
All right.
Well,
all right,
thank
John.
You, Bobby, and I appreciate listening to you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So, folks, that is, and I'm serious, every word. That's what you have to do in the business. You have to, and there are certain things you can do on your car, but as they said in the movie, man, you got to know his limits here. Let's go to Joe in Pennsylvania, also very patient. Joe, thank you so much for holding. It's your turn. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Thank you, Bobby. First of all, I want to thank you for your mechanical, technical counsel there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm not sure John feels that way. But anyway, what can I do for you?
All right. I got a couple of questions. AGM batteries. I'd like to know really what the big difference is between AGM and the wet battery, and also a lithium compared to a lithium battery for these. It's actually for a scooter, like, we'll say four-wheeler, small vehicle, AGM or lithium. What's the difference? And one other question about a CR4, 2004.
Okay, well, let's do one thing.
CR4 they call it.
Let's do one thing at a time. Number one, lithium batteries. Those batteries in multiples, like 6,000 in a Tesla. Those are small batteries that are connected in series that multiply the voltage, and that voltage could be it builds 300 volts and drives electric motors. So that's what lithium batteries are used for. And lithium batteries are not the same makeup as the lead acid battery or the AGM battery. But specifically with AGM batteries, and a good example is Optima. And just for you to know, and if you've listened to the program, you know that I do have a partnership with Johnson Controls. And Johnson Controls makes more AGM batteries than any other manufacturing in the world. And an AGM battery is an absorbent glass mat. So, number one, it's more sturdy and more resistant to vibration and heat, and it's compact and can be mounted in many different locations and not susceptible to leakage because it's not a flooded battery. Also, the internals, because they're compacted, are more sturdy and more stronger than a lead acid battery. And in addition, from the information that I've gleaned over the years with AGM batteries, and I've used them for many years, and they're in my car, those batteries will operate at a lower state of charge without overtaxing the charging mechanism on a car. So they are superior to a flooded battery. A flooded battery is an old technology, and Johnson Controls is a premier manufacturing company in many areas of automotive world. But one of the things that we shared with you last year was the power frame grid, and a power frame grid. This is in a flooded battery. A regular flooded, what's a molded cast lead. It's not even. You cast something, it's rough. But what power frame did was they laid out lead and they rolled it flat, and then they stamped every grid, stamp. So every grid was the same. So with every grid the same, then the voltage flow was superior, like 70% better current flow. So that's just one of the answers for your questions. So my selection will be an AGM battery over any flooded battery. We got a hard break, Joe. I'll come back and we'll address your second question. Don't go away. Why CarStar? Today's vehicles offer comforts and conveniences never imagined 20 years ago. Backup cameras, entertainment systems, start-stop technology, the list goes on. These technologies help avoid accidents. But what happens after a crash? Growth in electronic vehicle content adds to the collision repair cost and complexity. Damage a side view mirror or paint a bumper, and you may change the trajectory of that sensor. Adaptive headlights are another example. They actually turn the corner with you as you're turning the corner. The price for these headlights can reach $2,000. Now, more than ever, it's important to follow automaker guidelines for vehicle repairs. Don't compromise vehicle safety. CarStar is North America's largest multi-shop operator of independently owned repair facilities. CarStar delivers consistently high-quality repairs and the industry's highest customer satisfaction ratings. At CarStar, they don't just repair cars, they repair your car. Learn more at carstar.com. Folks, recently a '99 Chevrolet Blazer came into the shop. The owner was having problems with hesitation upon acceleration. He'd already changed out several parts: spark plugs, wires, ignition coil, mass airflow sensor, fuel filter, and the air filter element. He even changed the thermostat and coolant temperature sensor. Still had the same problem after putting a lot of money in this car, and he was frustrated. We dug a little deeper, cleaned the throttle body, and checked for trouble codes. No codes. So we recommended Berryman B12 Chem Tool. Carbon deposits and dirty fuel injector nozzles are a common problem with drivability in late model engines. We also recommended a higher quality gasoline. The customer noticed improvement on the first day, and only a few days and a few hundred miles later, the problem was completely gone. Berryman B12 Chem Tool features HEST, Berryman's exclusive high-energy solvent technology. The result is a more complete combination of available chemical technologies. Drive to BerrymanProducts.com for more information. That's BerrymanProducts.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone tip
from Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment. We're talking with Joe in Pennsylvania about AGM batteries versus flooded batteries. And Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by Optimal Batteries. And Joe, just for your information, Optimal Batteries, the AGM that you and I are talking about, are up to 15 times more vibration resistant than a traditional flooded batteries. That's why we call the Optimal battery the ultimate power source. And for those of you who really are not familiar with AGM or with the Optima, check them out at optimabatteries.com. Now, Joe, you mentioned you had another question, so back to you.
AGM batteries, does that also pertain to the small ones, like the 5-inch by 3-inch?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, any of the batteries that, for instance, in all the jump boxes that we have in the shop, and we have two. Yeah. We had one that was old and worn out, and I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years old, but it still worked, sort of. And then we bought a new one. Well, we paid $200 for the new one, and so I asked the crew, I said, what are we going to do with the old one? Well, I don't know. Well, so I went online and I bought a new AGM battery for it. I personally took it apart, and there was a little difference in the terminal locations. They were both on the outside, except the battery that I had was about an inch difference, and so I had a little bit of an issue tweaking the cables, where the jump cables. But overall, I spent $60 for this battery from Amazon, and I now have a $200 brand new box and a $60 brand new box or used box that for all intents and purposes is new, because I bought a new AGM battery. And that's you wouldn't dare use a flooded battery for any kind of jump because of the acid, and because every time you pick it up, you set it down, it vibrates. And so AGM, people just don't know because they don't understand. And with electronics like they are today, the battery is ultra important in every function of the car. But anyway, you had another question about another car.
I didn't really understand you. I actually about lithium. I was trying to compare. Like, they had these small lithium, 3x5-inch lithiums for the ATV lithium ion. Are they safe? I mean, how do they compare to the AGM?
I do not know the answer to that question.
Okay.
I do not. I don't know enough that I feel comfortable being an authority, but I will do some homework this week. I do know that lithium batteries are used in, in EVs, in electric vehicles like Tesla. But I also know, that with a Tesla, and it's the same thing. It's going to be true for a Bolt, GM Bolt, or a Leaf, or whatever EV car you have. You don't charge those cars 100%. You charge them at 65 or 70% as a rule. And the only time you charge them at 100% is when you're going to go on a trip, and then you bring them up to 100%. And so that has something to do with, I guess, the life cycle of the battery and the memory of the battery and how long the battery will last. And I assume, and I know this, when you're charging a battery, of course, it gets hot. So if you continue to keep the battery at 100%, you keep that heat in that battery. And obviously, with cooling systems for batteries, which all EVs have, heat is a factor. In fact, I guess for all things mechanical, heat and cold, it's like when you got that beautiful day that's 60 degrees and the humidity is 50 degrees, and the car really runs really well because, mechanical things don't like cold, and mechanical things, I'm speaking of cars, of course, don't like hot. So there's a sweet spot in there, and the sweet spot for a vehicle, engine temperature-wise, is 220 with today's controls. But under the hood, you'll get 250 and 275 degrees under the hood. And for the life of me, Joe, as long as I've been in the industry, I don't see how hoses and belts hold up as well as they do. It just amazes me.
Yeah, withstand it.
Oh, I know. But anyway, let's move on. What else did you have besides the question about lithium that I passed on?
Well, the Honda CR4, 2004 Honda CR4, I think they call it CR4.
All right.
I was wondering what the potential failures or, any drawbacks on that vehicle.
What year car?
It's a 2004.
Well, here's the challenge. It nothing to do with Honda. Any automobile that's a 2004 is now what, 15 years old?
Yeah.
Age. If you had a 15-year-old car that had been driven 3,000 miles a year, it's got 45,000 miles, and so it's a low mileage vehicle. Let's say it had 20,000. I mean, literally, just was only driven a couple thousand miles a year, and it had maybe 20,000 miles, and you could buy it for X, or you could buy a 2012 or 13 model car with 100,000 miles for the same price. You might say, well, gosh, I'm going to buy this low mileage older vehicle. That would be the wrong thing to do. Better to buy a late.
Yeah, I understand. It's sitting a lot too.
Well, that's right.
For a friend, I was just asking about for a friend. He was considering that, and I was wondering,
Well, then here's
bad, weak links in the thing.
Okay.
That
Here's the short answer. Take the vehicle, any used vehicle, whether it's a 04 CRV or a 14. Take it to a third party, a technician, and pay the price for what's called a PPI, pre-purchase vehicle inspection, and have them go through that vehicle, and you'll spend, I don't know, $125, somewhere in that range, and they will. We have a regular list that we codified, and we use a digital inspection, and we saved a lot of people a lot of money by performing our pre-purchase inspection. And we've made we've upset a few dealers because there are some cars that are, when a deal is so good, well, gosh, I can get this for a real good price. Well, let me just say this in closing. If a car has a mean average value of $10,000, and you've got one spotted that is 11.5 because it's low mileage and excellent condition, and you've got another one spotted for $7,500, you can't take the $7,500 vehicle and spend $5,000 on it and have it be the same car the 11.5 car is. You can spend $10,000 and still not be the same car. You can't take a car that is old and worn and needs work, and it's a good deal, I mean, quote unquote, and spend X amount of money and restore that car and make it equal to the car that has the low mileage. I'm speaking, equal car, same year. So it's better always, in my experience, to go for the car that has the extra equipment, the options, the lowest mileage perhaps, but the best records of maintenance than it is to buy any other vehicle that, well, that's a good deal. Because if you put the money first, it's going to cost you money because cars do wear out. They're mechanical, and age is the enemy of automobiles, not miles. You got it?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate
Okay,
it.
my friend. Thank you. And we're going to go now to Frank. Frank, call back, and then we're going to go to Brendan, and then we're going to go to Tony, and your calls at 888 Car Clinic. Frank, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Yeah, West Palm Beach, home of Donald Trump.
Well, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, home of the center of the automotive universe.
Yeah, I was at his house long before he became president. He was a nice guy when I was in his house.
Well, what can I do for you?
Missing the old pickup leaking on the back there for the transmission, between transmission and engine.
Okay. So the transmission is leaking out the front of itself, right?
Right. Between there, massive leak when I start driving around.
Wow. Well,
you could trace wherever I've been if you want to see. There he goes.
Well, don't park in my driveway.
Well, I've been in Cuba a lot, and it feels like a Cuban car. There's a big leak everywhere they park.
I got you. So what's your question to me?
Well, how do I stop that leak? Or is that the
pull
is that a seal back there?
I don't know. Does it leak transmission fluid, or is it engine oil, or is it fuel?
Oh, it's oil. It's a dually.
I know, but wait a minute. wait a minute, you're asking me a question, but you're not giving me the information I need to answer the question. Is it transmission fluid or is it engine oil?
Oh, it's engine oil.
Well, it's a rear main seal. You got to pull the transmission and have a professional replace a rear main seal.
So when you replace that rear main seal, is there anything else? Well, you got to take the torque converter out. Is there anything else you have to do?
Well, that will be an opportunistic time because you have the transmission out to also replace the front pump seal in the transmission, because you've got the transmission out, and all you have to do is ease the converter out, and of course it'll spill fluid, but that's okay. So any shop worth its salt that would, for how many miles on this 95, and it's an old dually. I mean,
that is old.
Yeah, so yes, there are, while you're at it, services to be performed to the transmission, and that would be to replace the front pump seal in the transmission. Period. If the transmission's working and there's no problems, replace the seal in the transmission. However, when the technician pulls the torque converter out, if the torque converter surface of the snout of the torque converter it has wear, that a new seal might not seal correctly. So you might have to replace the converter. That would be that would be up to the technician. And we also polish those things with crocus cloth, which is a fine, 1500 grit, so you've got to have a good sealing surface. So that's the only other thing. Other than that, have them pull the rear main and the transmission and do what they have to do. And now's a good time to look at the U-joints. Let's see what else. U-joints, transmission mount, front pump seal, service the transmission. That's a start for you. And any other questions?
Yeah, but the U-joints, where are they?
You don't know anything about cars, do you?
I'm a musician. I'm a guitar player.
Oh, okay. Well, the U-joint is the drive shaft connects the transmission to the differential, drives the vehicle, and because the differential goes up and down all the time with the bouncing of the vehicle, the drive shaft has a universal joint at the front and the rear, and when you have the drive shaft out to get the transmission out, that's the perfect time to feel the joints and make sure they're good. Hey folks, I got a break coming up. Frank, thanks for your call. From West Palm, I'm Bobby Likis. I'll be back. Talking tunes? No, not the ones on your radio, the ones that allow you to reprogram your vehicle's factory computer, giving you more power, more torque, and a better overall driving experience. We recently sat down with Jim McGinn, Vice President of Marketing for Power Tech. Jim touched on the role a tuner plays when adding an intake or exhaust system.
Anytime you add an intake or an exhaust system, it's important to make sure that you have a tune equipped to help those hard parts work well together on your vehicle. The magic and beauty of the Diablo Sport tuners and the Reaper Stage 1 kits are that you get an air-fuel mixture that is already designed and engineered for the particular setup that you may be running to electronically compensate for the intake and the exhaust on your vehicles. Diablo Sport Jammer intake tunes make tuning easy anytime you add an intake or an exhaust.
Whether it's the Predator, the Intune i3, or the Trinity 2, you can find the perfect tune at DiabloSport.com. That's DiabloSport.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million.
that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website, a living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to what a great program we're having today, Bobby Likis Car Clinic, brought to you in part by Motorcraft. Insists on Motorcraft parts for quality and durability, folks. Motorcraft, right part, priced right. You can learn more at motorcraft.com. Take a call from Brennan, who has a 15 Chevrolet Trax. Brennan, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Bobby. I'm the same guy who called you about the K-Seal fixing my problem that the GM dealership couldn't.
Yes, sir. Congratulations.
Yes, K-Seal's a great product.
It is.
But I have a new problem. My check engine light went on the other day, and I have a meter, and it read the MAF sensor and everything, so I brought it to the dealer, got the diagnostic and all this other stuff. I told them what it was. They charged me $105 to tell me exactly what I told them. Then they told me that the K&N filter that I was using, the oil that you spray on it, was the one that burned out my MAF sensor. I took it back to a friend of mine who works at a different auto parts store than you advertised. I won't say who, but I also work for them. And he told me he's a master tech, and he told me that he's never heard of it.
He said what?
He said he never heard of the oil burning out a MAF sensor, the oil from the K&N filter.
Years ago, well, let me just say this. Of the millions of K&N filters that are in service, including 2 on my one car, it has dual filters. There have been 200 of hundreds of millions of filters, 200 cases that were opened. Normally, you'll hear a dealer that condemns a K&N filter and saying the oil gets on the air mass sensor. The oil that is used to make a K&N filter work is a mist of oil. It's a charger pack, and I have those, and I sell those, and I use those, and I've never had a problem with a mass airflow sensor. And the technical director for K&N is a personal friend of mine, and whenever I have a question, I pick up the phone and call him, and he's always Johnny on the spot. And I will tell you this, the only way that you could damage a mass airflow sensor is to spray oil directly on it, because it's a hot wire. And the only way that you could damage it through a K&N filter or any other oil filter would be if you took the filter and you just put a smattering of oil on it and it was dripping. And you don't do that. You just you spray a light mist on it. And so
that's exactly what I do. And I took it and I put it on the hood of my car for 2.5 hours in the bright sunlight, and it dried it completely. Right. And I only put it on the bottom anyway.
Right.
So
that's
anyway.
Well, you know that's not. You know that. So what is your question to me, other than the fact that we both agree? Yeah.
He did show me that the mass airflow sensor was burned out. My car has a little over 100,000 on it now. And I went and put another one in because he wanted to charge me like buku bucks for one. I was like, you guys are crazy. Then he wouldn't release my car because he told me he couldn't put that K&N filter back in good conscience. And I was like, oh, come on, just roll the damn thing out. I'll put it back together. Which I did.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Brought it back down, got the mass airflow sensor, put it in, cleared all the codes, and everything was running fine yesterday. I started it up again this morning, and now the check engine light is back on, and I'm showing a O2 sensor intermittent. Like I was going to say, I think you answered the question in the first one. I think my ECM is burned. It's showing intermittent rich lean on the O2 sensor.
Well, of course, if you have had issues with the air mass sensor, and you replaced it, then the engine will have to relearn. So what I would recommend is I wouldn't replace any more parts. I would clear the code, and I would drive the vehicle 3 or 4 days, and see what it does, and fill the tank with fuel, and let it relearn itself. And if there is another issue with an injector or pressure regulator or whatever, then you can address that a little later on down the line. I wouldn't start replacing parts just because the part. I wouldn't replace an oxygen sensor because the oxygen sensor code exists in the vehicle, because oxygen sensors get a bad rap often. You can check with a scope, not you, but a professional. We check with a scope, and we watch the oxygen sensor operate, and we watch the voltage oscillate in an oxygen sensor, and it uses osmosis, and it measures the oxygen in the exhaust. If you have too much oxygen, then it's too lean. If you have too little oxygen and carbon in there, then it's too rich. So it goes back and forth, lean rich, lean rich, lean rich. That's how they work. So that's what I would do if I were you. I wouldn't jump the gun and replace any parts. Any questions?
Well, no, I'm not going to jump the gun, but
Okay,
what I said was it's been over 300 miles that I drive like 300 miles a day.
Right.
And it's been over 300 miles, stop, go, stop, go, stop, go.
Right.
And it's still check engine light's back on again. So, like I said, it's still showing that O2 sensor.
Well,
rich lean.
Well, Brennan, here's what I would do. I would take the Berryman B12 Chem tool, and I would at least run a couple of tanks of fuel with the Berryman B12 Chem tool in it. And the directions are on the bottle, and you maybe use 1 can to 20 gallons. I'm not so sure in your case that you wouldn't want to try maybe 1 can of Berryman B12 Chem tool to a half a tank of fuel, and then use that not on a highway 300-mile trip, but in a usage of the vehicle where you're just driving it a few miles a day, because every time you turn the car off, whatever fuel additive and the chemical in the Berryman B12 Chem tool will dissolve a top layer of carbon on the intake valve, and that's what I would recommend for you as a starter, because that's easy to do, and you're not spending a lot of money, you're not throwing more parts at it. So, any questions?
That's what I do use that. I use it every 10th tank. Like I said, I fuel up every day, and I use that B12 Chem tool every 10th tank. So I know what you're talking about.
It is good stuff, yeah.
Great.
It is. So that's what I would recommend. Well, then if that's the case, then you may have to replace some parts that you're talking about. But I'm hesitant to say yes, put a part just because that check engine light is on and that code is on. I think you need to at least get a second opinion from a professional scan tool. Okay.
Yeah, I think I'll go to the guy I went to afterwards.
Yeah, I agree. I
work with him.
Hey, thanks so much for your
All right,
call.
thank you, Bobby.
You're welcome. Good luck. That's interesting. He's driving his car, as we all are. Duh, that's what we do. We drive cars, right? We'll take a call from Tony. Tony, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. I was just on a few minutes ago. The first thing I did was went outside and I checked the level of the transmission fluid in that Allison transmission. I didn't like what I saw. It was cold. It only ran a few minutes before I parked it,
right.
And it's been sitting for over an hour. The temperature hasn't even budged off 160 yet at the very low mark. So
Right.
It's not operating temperature. And when I checked the dipstick, it was in the middle of the hot run grid, not the cold range.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like it has too much fluid in it, and it has less than 1,000 miles on it since the fluid was changed.
Right.
And the fluid is dark, almost black looking.
Ooh,
Does that mean anything to you?
Yes, I don't. Yeah, and the smell. I guess it smells burned.
Well, I didn't smell it.
Yeah, you should.
Smell it, but I I didn't like the look of that dark fluid, and I didn't like the fact that it had too much fluid in it.
I agree. It needs to be. What you need to do is, are you in a position that you can go back to the shop that serviced it?
Well, no, I'm in Daytona now, and he's in Edenton, Georgia. I haven't used this mechanic. I have an excellent mechanic here in Daytona. But I'm spending a lot of time up there, and my water pump went out.
Gotcha.
This guy was recommended to me, and he seemed good. He does a lot of transmission work in his shop. And that's why I'm surprised that he specializes in.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you know if he used a machine that extracted the old fluid, or how did he service it?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I waited on it while he serviced it because I had to drive so far to his shop, but I was in his office working on my computer, so I didn't look over his shoulder. I don't know what he did.
Well, have your local technician there in Daytona take a look at it, Tony. And number one, fluid is not what you're seeing on the stick is dark. That's not right. And if it's been changed recently, the only way it can go from good new fluid to old looking burned fluid is to have internal engine or internal transmission issues. So have your local technician check that fluid and at least service it again and make sure that you use a machine where you get 98% of the old stuff out and you put new in, and make sure the level is correct. And temperature wise does make a whale of a difference. And transmissions are really, really picky about the right level. So that's what I would do as the next step for you. I recommend that for your next step.
Okay, I'll get it over to my guy on Monday morning. Now, can I drive it over there? It's 6 or 8 miles away. Or should I have it towed over there? I mean, I've got 600 miles on it since they changed it.
But
on the way here, I have a transmission temperature gauge on this truck as well.
Right.
And the transmission temperature never, I watch my gauges constantly, and the transmission temperature gauge was not out of the range where it always runs.
Right.
And the engine temperature is right on the money.
Well,
could that have happened because he may have overfilled it? If I drove it that far with too much fluid in it?
Well, no. In my recollection, here's what happens when too much fluid's in a transmission. The fluid gets up in the gears and starts to foam, and then because the clutches in the transmission use hydraulic pressure, you can compress air, but you can't compress liquid. So when you have foamy liquid, then the clutches can slip. And so, yes, an overfilled transmission could be damaged because it has foamed fluid, and that foam fluid will not maintain the pressure that straight liquid will. So, yes, the answer is yes. All the more reason you should at least service it one more time and try it. As far as driving it, I have an issue with driving it because what happened this morning when you pulled off is something new to this vehicle that's never happened before, and the fact that it won't go it won't shift, that tells me that it's best not to drive it. It's always safer to tow it, even though it's only 6 miles. It's like, for me, the analogy comes when you got an engine that's overheating and the exit is only a half a mile up, and you say, well, gosh, it's overheating. That last 100 feet melts the engine down. So
okay, I have it.
Play it safe. Okay.
I have AAA Premier. So one other thing, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I did notice after he serviced it, when I was driving it that it shifted a little bit funky when it was going into high gear. I guess that's a 6-speed transmission, I believe. And when it was going, when I was on the highway, and when it went all through the gears, when it went into 6, it kind of hesitated a little bit, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It didn't make a real smooth shift into high gear.
Well, it could be.
It
could be that high gear clutch or the lockup converter is overheated, and you could have a damaged transmission. Have your person to check it, and then feel free to call me next week if I can help you back.
Thanks, Bobby.
Yeah,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Thank you. You're welcome. Take care. From Louisiana, Dane. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
How you doing, Bobby?
Fine. How about yourself, sir?
Good. I got a little problem with the 1992
150.
Okay.
It has a dual. It's a straight six,
Right.
inline six, and my fuel. When I turn my key on, it takes a while for the fuel pressure, to get up.
Okay.
And once I started and everything, this is what I had to do to start it. I sprayed some starter fluid in it,
wow.
and it started.
Wow.
But then it ran rough until it warms up, and then it goes in, and I can drive it all day long, and then it starts all the time while it's warm. But then as it sits through the night, the next morning it does the same thing. If I wait like 5 minutes, it'll pressure up.
Right.
And I've brought it to a couple of mechanics, and I've changed everything that they've told me to change, the sensors and stuff like that, and it's still doing the same thing.
Well, there's one test that has to be performed, so just hear me and get this performed. Have a fuel pressure test performed that includes the following: operating pressure, dead head pressure, and residual pressure.
Residual pressure.
And flow. Fuel flow, dead head, pressure, operating pressure, and residual pressure. Call me back next week. I'm out of time.
Okay, thank you, Bobby.
You're welcome, Dane. Folks, that is all the time we have for today's broadcast. And remember, if you're like Jim in Virginia or Felix in Texas, FordParts.com is your one-stop shop for Motorcraft Ford parts and Ford accessories, and also Omnicraft parts, which are trademarked by Ford for multiple brands of automobiles. FordParts.com also features high-quality parts, images, and line art diagrams, detailed descriptions, and a related parts section showing part numbers in close proximity. Really a cool site. Live chat and call center support is also available. FordParts.com. Find it, buy it, and get back to work. And thank you. I'll see you next week on Bobby Likis Car Clinic, 10 till noon Eastern Time. Likis, you'll love us.
This is Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Get your vehicle ready for summer during Murray AC Month at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Whether you need a full AC repair or a charge on your system, you'll find special offers on everything from AC compressors to refrigerant. Stay cool this summer. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Coolant leaks can be expensive, with repairs costing a few $1,000s or more. And these problems often hit vehicles late in life when they may be only worth a few $1,000s. There is an alternative. K-Seal is a pour-in solution designed to stop leaks and help prevent future leaks. Older sealers use sodium silicate, which has a tendency to clog the system. K-Seal features ceramic technology that's designed to repair the leak without clogging. Learn more about K-Seal at kseal.com. Don't just seal it, K-Seal it.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P. Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grow, now you're here. Your aroma